Hello, everyone. I am Claudio Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. And today, my guest is Kary Oberbrunner. Kary is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author of 11 books in multiple genres, ranging from business to fiction to technology. He is the founder and CEO of Igniting Souls and Blockchain Life. Together, these companies help authors, entrepreneurs, and influencers publish and protect their intellectual property and turn it into 18 streams of income. In the past 20 years, he's ignited over 1 million people with his content. He lives in Ohio with his wife, Kelly, and 3 children. Kary, thank you very much for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for all that you're doing for your community.
Thank you. I will start by asking you that, or making a statement and then asking you a question. Some years ago, you were part of the clergy. What determined you to leave that structure?
Yeah. So my dad was a minister, and I have always had a rocky relationship with God. So what I mean by that is I always believed God existed. I think I had a relationship with God from a young age. However, life involves pain. And when those painful things happened, I began to question and doubt God. But I was taught indirectly or directly that you don't go to God with anger. And so what I began to do is I began to try to stuff that pain. And that turned into self-injury. So this, as a young child, turned into self-harm. It started with biting, moved into cutting, and it was a way of punishing myself for what I believed was having, unrighteous thoughts or emotions or anger. So you can imagine that's pretty intense. So writing to me actually became a way that I got set free, because I was able to redirect my anger and pain through a productive way of writing. In that process, I became a pastor, actually, all during the process. I mean, I even was self-injuring while I was a minister. But once I got set free, I started to write some of those books, and I began to realize I could have a bigger impact outside the church. So, like most people, I struggled with self-limiting beliefs. Would people hire me? Do I have what it takes? To go from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset is a big transformation. But eventually, Claudia, what I realized was that I can take a message and turn it into a movement. I can take a book and turn it from a business card into a business. And I started to do that with my own books. And then people began to say, how are you doing that? And some of those income streams are seminars, webinars, events, workshops, masterminds, podcasts, things like this. And as a result, that's kind of the imprint I made in the world. Was I will help authors, entrepreneurs, and influencers take their book from a message into a movement. And that's really how I began to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a noble mission. And after your turnaround, did you realize and you still believe that we can have a connection with God or the God of our understanding,
Oh yeah.
personal relationship without a specific structure in place?
Oh yeah. Just today, I was journaling, reading the scripture, praying. To me, it's not an activity. I don't say, okay, I'm going to check the box and I hung out with God today. That's how it used to be. But I literally wake up and say, all day long, I'm in connection with God. And some of those moments, I'm angry at the person who, upset me. And other times I'm doing kindness to strangers. God sees it all. You know, this is where a lot of people wear masks and they say, "Oh, you know, I'm going to pretend God can't see this or God can't see that." I'm like, "Look, the good, the bad, and the ugly." So to me, prayer literally has become a way of life. There's a lot of the ancient mystics talk about breath prayer or uh, but the scriptures say pray without ceasing. So you either have to view prayer as like, okay, I'm never going to eat, I'm never going to sleep, I'm never going to do anything so I can pray, or it has to become a way of life. And I think the way of life is a dependency. So what I mean by that is I don't have to make it on my own today. And that's actually very freeing. Because even as an entrepreneur, if I was like, oh my gosh, I got to make this sale, I got to make this deal, I got to make this, that's a lot of pressure. So I literally wake up every day and I say, I'm dependent on you, God. And then here's what else I do though. But I hustle. And you know me.
Yeah.
See, some people say, I'm just going to sit around and wait on God. And other people say, I'm just going to hustle. I say both. I'm going to hustle and I'm going to rely on God. It's a both and, not a either or.
Yes, there is nothing wrong with that because God will open up opportunities when you hustle and you are there every single day trying to either make your living or achieve your own goals or helping other people.
I
So,
love it.
yeah,
Love it.
it's amazing. And you mentioned that God will see us when we wear a mask, and I'm sure that you did not refer to a physical mask, but the invisible mask. We all wear a mask at
Yes.
the office, mask when we meet friends. So, indeed, even if we think that wearing different type of masks, um, psychologically, we are
Yes.
not being seen by God, that's not true. God sees every single aspect of us, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with that. And, some people view that and then they are fearful. Oh my gosh, God sees when I lie, when I cheat, when I steal, when I drink, when I blah, blah, blah. Some people feel that and they're afraid. And I think if it all depends on you, maybe you should be afraid. But in my view of life, I trust in, so my spirituality is that Jesus Christ has done it for me. So if I had to rely on my own strength, I'm gonna fail. But I can take comfort and rest that it's not all on me.
Yes, and to bring another type of teaching into our discussion, it was a guru, Indian guru, which believed in God. He believed in Jesus Christ, and he was talking about Jesus's teachings. He had a gathering at
Mm,
Hollywood with some stars at that time, and one guy said, "Look, he was an actor," and he said, "Look, Guruji, I sleep with a lot of women. I drink a lot, I smoke a lot, and you still want me to be your disciple?" And the Guru said, "Yes, all I am asking of you is to meditate daily, in the morning and in the evening." But why? Because if you do that, you're going to stop drinking, you're going to stop smoking, you're going to stop sleeping around. So I'm not asking you to give up, just meditate.
wow. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, so it was Paramahansa Yogananda who lived most of his life in US on the western coast, but he was very imbued with Christianity
Yeah,
and combining Hinduism with Christianity,
gotcha.
and he really um, told people to read the Bible, read it, uh, look at the teachings, and follow the teachings. So that was quite interesting.
It's so good. I love it.
Kary, you are a family man, as I mentioned in the introduction, and I feel like these days there is a war against the notion of family, motherhood, against spirituality even, and the values
Mm.
which kept the society civilized. And all this is done with, in my opinion at least, with a huge support from the governments. What's your take on it? What are they doing that?
So I want to make sure I understand. So you're basically saying that uh there's an attack on families from the government. Is that kind of what you said?
family values
Yeah.
and the notion of motherhood, and
Oh yeah.
they really are.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just listen. There's an overreach by government right now, and you know, I don't need to get into all kinds of politics, but I just was on Twitter, and whether you believe in vaccines or you don't believe in vaccines, there was just something on Twitter that said in New Zealand, the government just kidnapped a child
Yes.
because the parents said, listen, our kid needs transfusions and we want the transfusions to be with unvaccinated blood. Now, I don't care what you believe about vaccines or not vaccines, but if a government's going to come and kidnap a child, that's an overreach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's an overreach that you can get your gender reassigned without your parents' permission. Like, I know that might sound, wow, he's really conservative and all this, but you either are in charge of raising your children or you're not. Like, let's not play games. So if you're not in charge, fine, have a child, and then at the age of 0, hand him over to the state and let the state raise him. But if that's not the case, then we need to draw boundaries about the parents do have a say. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's just common sense. What you said is common sense. I read the note on or the tweet for sure, and they are overreaching way beyond what was meant for the government to do on any country on earth, I think.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to go deeper into that because I'm
I get
frustrated
you.
with these guys.
I get you.
But yeah, we have to. Otherwise, we'll be treated like cattle. We are
Yeah.
not any more than cattle. If they can take our children, if they can pick up us from our homes and put us in prison, then we are just cattle and nothing else.
And what I've realized is that any type of system that does that, there's always at the top hypocrisy. So for what I mean by that is the people in charge might say that's okay if they do it. But then if you turn around and say, okay, we're going to do that to your child or your grandchild, it's like, whoa, hold on. Nope. So that's what I've realized is that usually when you see abuses of power, if you take a deeper look, they don't have the same rules that apply for them.
Yes, and the latest one in Canada is when our Prime Minister said that he is in support of the
The
Chinese
Chinese.
people going against the government, protesting. But this year in February, he unleashed the police and RCMP on the peaceful protesters and blocked their accounts,
Wow.
and so hypocrisy at his best, at
It's
its
it's
best. So
exactly, and just to talk about that, Jesus called that out in his day
yeah,
because Jesus looked at the Pharisees. Those were the people in the day that said, look, we don't even just need the 10 commandments. We need 613 other laws so that we don't offend the 10. And Jesus looked at them and said, you guys can't even do that. Why are you out enforcing all these laws when you can't even do them? And that was the whole casting the stone, where they found the woman caught in adultery. And Jesus says, look, okay, fine. You want to throw the stone? Whoever's without sin, go do it.
yeah,
And they all drop their stone because they're like, we can't do it. And that's why I don't like religion. Because religion, I've heard it this way, religion is humanity's attempt to get right with God. But Christianity is what God did to get right with humans.
mhm,
You see what I'm saying? And again, I'm not here to be like, hey, Christians are the best and the only way. I just say explore the facts. And I've studied a lot of religions, and I worked in one for 12 years, And at the end of the day, I think it is a personal relationship. It's not, I punched the clock. I went to that worship service, that worship service. If it's what I do on my own to get to God, then I can lose it by what I don't do. In other words, that's where that whole stress and pressure comes in. My view is like, I am so glad it doesn't depend on me, because there's some days where I just mess up.
Yeah.
and if and if it was on me, I'd be in a world of hurt. So I need a savior. And some people don't like that. So again, it's this whole, I totally ascribe to human potential and performance, hence my book Unhackable. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, but I so need grace and mercy. So
Yeah.
I think that's why people might listen to this and they might be like, whoa, that's a paradox. How can you have both and? But I think that's why I like the Eastern mindset, because the Eastern mindset allows paradoxes, grace and truth, mercy and justice. Us Western mind, we want, oh, just that or just that.
And for them, I think for the Eastern folks, I think sometimes it's easier because they don't have this type of attachments to physical goods as we have. We're being
Mm,
ingrained to have more and more and more. As soon as we have a little bit more money or income, we have to upgrade. So I
mm,
think that drags us back into more physicality than spirituality.
that's good. I like that.
And
Yeah,
yeah. And also going back to your comment about Jesus, he was a rebel
yeah.
and he was fighting against the establishment. And the history repeats itself now because there are us in today's
Oh yeah.
time fighting against the government, the overreach you
Oh yeah.
mentioned. And again,
Eh,
there are people fighting against the government all throughout history.
yeah. And look, I'll never say about you know, you pick your person today. Uh Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is embodying a lot of Christ-like principles. Now, is he Christ? Not at all. He's going to make mistakes. That's why I think you can never look at a human and be like, that's my dude that I'm following, because I don't want people to do that to me.
Yeah.
They'll see flaws. But I think what Elon Musk is doing is he's frustrating the right and frustrating the left, and he's basically saying truth wins. Now, is he doing it perfectly? No. But I do like people who stand up and say, whether it's my buddy Bono, you know, I like these, Gandhi, whatever. I like these characters who basically say, I'm gonna push a little bit, you know. That's who I want to be. I want to push. And even with my newest book, Blockchain Life, some people say, oh, I'm gonna totally resist Web3. And other people say I'm going to totally jump into Web3. And what I do in this book and a lot of my books is I say, here's the good, here's the bad, and you got to navigate and find your own path in that conversation. And that's what I want to do. I want to push the traditional boundaries, but realize, okay, there's gonna be some dangers in Web3. There's gonna be some evil, there's gonna be some abuses. But does that mean we reject it all? In fact, one of my very first books. Uh, interesting. This is the version 2. This is the version 1. Okay, so it's really the same book, but it was like version 1, version 2.
Mhm.
This is funny. I haven't held this book in 10 years. But what's interesting is in the book, our conversations leading me to this part. What I basically say that there's separatists, conformists, and transformists. The separatists, to our analogy, the separatists are the Pharisees. The conformists, so the separatist says nothing goes. The conformist says everything goes, and the transformist says some things go. And that's really that third camp. And that's how I want to be in life. I want to be like, I'm not just going to check out my brain and just let everything come in, but I'm not going to reject everything. I'm going to use my brain and have to decide what's correct.
Yes.
Discernment.
Yeah, and this leads me into another question, which is very tricky these days, and stirs a lot of controversy. There's a lot of talk about transhumanism.
Yes.
AI embedded into our bodies. So, at
Yes.
what point do you see it as a positive enhancement before turning into a dangerous side of ourselves? Taking over our consciousness, or someone external controlling the software which controls the AI.
Mm. If my hope is in technology, then I think I've gone too far. In other words, right now I'm using technology. I have my Aura ring, which monitors my sleep. I have a watch, which tells me the time, and it tells me many other things. I have a mobile phone that Elon Musk calls us cyborgs today because we literally have an appendage. We just haven't put this inside yet.
Yeah.
But we pretty much hold our AI all day, every day. In my book Unhackable, I tell you how many times you hold it, touch, swipe, click, tap. But my point is that it's a spectrum, okay? Transhumanism, in my opinion, is a spectrum. I would be lying to you if I said that I didn't use technology. I even took supplements today. I took vitamins today. You see what I'm saying? There's people that have earpieces. I have glasses. This is technology that helps me see. So some people are like, oh, transhumanism, and yet they're listening in an ear hearing aid. They're wearing glasses. They have contact lenses. They took vitamins or drugs or medicine, and they're like, no to technology. I think what we struggle with is, here's a real example. We say it's okay for someone to get a prosthetic limb that has BCI, brain computer interface, if their leg was cut off in a bomb or an accident. Well, what happens when that prosthetic limb helps you run a mile in 50 seconds? And what happens when those prosthetic limbs help you squat 6,000 pounds? Suddenly people are going to say, oh, well, gee, I can run faster than anything. I can squat. Now I'm just going to use bionic legs, and I'm going to get mine removed. And I think that's a tough conversation. I mean, it really is. It'd be easy to be like, oh, I wouldn't do that. But let's be honest. Would you? If you could remove your arms and your legs and have superhuman powers, I honestly might do that, I know that sounds crazy, but we do that with LASIK surgery. We do that with eyeglasses in a much smaller way. We say, oh, well, I'll put these things on, they help me see. Well, why don't you just not wear them so you can't see? So again, I think that we're not comfortable with it because it's new. But you put a few decades or generations, and now suddenly through Neuralink, you put a brain chip in, and the brain chip allows you to remember every single thing you've ever heard or read, 10 times faster. Or you wear these glasses and now you have augmented reality. So I can look at Claudiu and I can see Claudiu's degrees and where he went to school, and I can see his books, and I can see his heart rate, anything he wants me to see. I just think I think that we're going to have a lot of conversations about what makes us truly human and where is the line. And I can't tell you where the line is right now.
Yeah. So what you're mentioning is pretty much reality catching up with science fiction. Because I was
Mm.
mentioning to a friend the other day that things which I thought about and wrote in my books that it will happen in 2050 have already happened. So I'm kind of out of ammunition right now for the next book. I have to think harder. And
Well, you're so right. I wrote Elixir Project, that
yeah.
dystopian fiction book. I wrote this, I started writing it in 2014. It was published in 2016. And my whole premise was that people's brains someday are going to be able to be hacked.
Yeah.
Everything can be hacked, even the truth. And you know what? It's kind of happening. I mean, Twitter kind of hacked everybody, you know. We're starting to see this right now. Twitter gate, we're starting to see how social media has shaped our perception of reality. You could call that a hack. So it's kind of coming true.
Yeah, as long as the Mennonites can keep their lifestyle, I'm okay with it. I mean, or anyone else who wants to maintain their lifestyle and they have free will and free choice, I'm okay.
Mm,
As long as our rights,
yeah,
God-given rights are respected, I'm okay with it.
yeah.
So you stated at one point that the most powerful weapon on earth is a human soul on fire. Why?
Mm. Yeah, I definitely quote that from a gentleman named Ferdinand Foch, a French general. Some people correct my pronunciation, but the whole point is that somebody who knows their identity, purpose, and direction. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? And I'm big into visual. So I want to share a quick little image of that because I think people will say, "Oh, I get it now." But I have three circles, and these three circles, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going?
Hmm.
Identity, purpose, direction. When you have clarity around those three things, you are a soul on fire. In a way, it's like, I'm sorry, I just keep talking about my books, but it's how I think. When you are a soul on fire, you can show up filled up. In other words, Claudio, I don't have to come to you and be like, well, who does Claudio think I am? Does he think I'm enough? I already know I'm enough. I don't have to say, what's my purpose? I already know my purpose. I don't have to say, will he buy from me? I already know my direction. So I believe when you are a soul on fire, you can show up filled up. And we can feel it when somebody doesn't show up filled up. We feel the energy pull from them. It's like they're a vampire. They're an energy vampire. And the reason why I get so much business from people is because it's not because I'm perfect. It's not because I have all the answer, but it's because I show up filled up. And they say, "Man, this guy doesn't need anything from me." And then they say, "That's attractive. That's interesting." And then what I do is I have a choice to become a service provider to them. There's a lot of service providers who need you. I need your business. I need your money. I need your affirmation. I need your agreement. And when you feel that in a relationship, you're like, whoa. And so you actually repel. And so I tell people in my books, I say clarity attracts. So when I'm clear on who I am, why I'm here, and where I'm going, people say, I want that because I don't have that.
Yes, and this is what I learned from our interaction over the last 4 years, that you are there to offer your service and bring value to those you are interacting with, and that's the message you are, spreading to all the authors and the entrepreneurs you are supporting. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, prime example, just being real with people. You know, my book came out yesterday, and there's people who told me, dude, go through your phone and text all your friends and just tell them, like, hey, your book came out. Can they get a copy? Can they get a review? And I thought about it and I'm like, I don't want to spend my social currency on that. In other words, there's a time where I need to spend my social currency, you know? Um, what is that? Hey, Claudio, I really need this favor from you. Okay. There's a time that where, I've given to you so much that I need to convert some of that into a request. But to me, a 9.99 book that somebody buys from me and an Amazon review is not worth showing up empty. So I just said I'm not going to do it. I told myself I'm not going to do that. Now, does that mean I'm too prideful to ask for help? Maybe. But I think that I don't have a problem asking for people for help. I said who wants to be part of the launch team? I'm asking you, and I'll make it amazing and I'll give you these benefits, but who wants to be part of the launch team? So I do ask, but I don't do stupid asks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask stupid, where they could have just Googled the answer. And you just spent social credibility by not, my whole thing that I say, victims lie in bed, blame, excuses, and denial. Victors put their oar in the water and move forward, ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So, I'll be very practical. I just got a speaking request to speak at a college on one of my books, and it was a very nice request. And I responded back to the person. I said, yeah, because this is a total fit. It's my old college that I went to. And I said, not only do I want to come speak, but I actually want to say, how can I serve your faculty when I'm there? Do they need training on blockchain? Do they need training on metaverse? What about the seminary? And the guy was blown away that instead of just saying, here's my fee, I'll come in for 30 minutes, speak, walk out of the room. Instead, I'm like, look, I'll come the night before. We'll create an event. And here's what's going to happen. We're both going to win. Because I'm coming in that way, we're both going to win. So that's an example where you almost rewrite the rules. When you get requests, instead of just taking, say, how can I be a giver?
Yes. And you
And
mentioned, yeah.
you did this for me. Oh my gosh, you did this for me. When I came to Canada in 2018 or 2019, I said, I'm coming to Canada. I want to give to your people.
Yeah.
And we created a whole event. You did an amazing job. You got that building that we were able to use. People came from all different parts of Toronto and the area. I don't think we charged them. I think I gave and served. We promoted other people's books. I probably walked away with clients, but you showed up, filled up for me, and it was amazing.
Yeah. It was a pleasure. You mentioned social credits. Also, we can think in spiritual term, spiritual bank,
Mm.
or spiritual credits. When we do good deeds on the spiritual side, like helping other people, we also keep banking these credits, which
Oh, that's good.
God will look into this type of deeds and reward us at one point in time.
I like that. In fact, it says in my favorite book, store up your treasures in heaven, where moth and thief and rust do not destroy. In other words, I can just take every dollar here on earth, but as the statement says, there's no U-Haul following a hearse. You're
Mhm.
going to leave it all here. So I like what you're saying. You can send it ahead by doing good deeds. Now, in my book, it's not so that I can brag or so that I can get into heaven. That's not depending on me. It's depending on, in my opinion, Jesus's finished work on the cross. But I'll tell you what, you bet the Bible talks about getting rewards. And I think a lot of people downplay that, and they shouldn't. Like it says work for the prize of the high calling, and so I feel like you're onto something there. That and here's another thing. It says also that let your light shine before men that they may see your good deeds and praise the Father. So there is a whole point of I'm doing good deeds to point people back to God.
Yes, thank you. Kary, what is your ultimate spiritual goal in life?
Wow. I love the story where it's said about the person, well done, thou good and faithful servant. I actually like what Ed Milet says. Ed Milet says that he wants to get to heaven and that God introduces him to his ideal self. And when he meets his ideal self, they look familiar.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty cool. So I don't want God to say about me, man, you left so much in the tank. Like, yeah, I'll tell you what, back when I was young person, I was suicidal. I mean, I just straight up was. And I didn't think I would lose out on heaven if I would have committed suicide. But here was my big fear. My big fear was that God would literally say, "You're early." And then he would have said, "Look at all these things you would have done." And back then I had nothing going for me. I literally didn't. All I had was heartache, depression. But I just knew maybe, maybe someday I could help people. And so that's why I didn't go through with that. And I think I'm not ready yet. So
That's great.
more to be done.
Yeah. Kary, I met you 4 years ago, and since then you continuously reinvented yourself, never pleased with previous achievements. So now you are involved in blockchain and you're helping authors to migrate to this new technology. Um, what do you think would be the next project for you, 2023 or 2024? Are you going to stick to blockchain or are you going to keep reinventing yourself?
You ready for it, man? You're the first person I've told publicly. So I'm absolutely gonna ride the Web3 blockchain NFT metaverse, but my next book is gonna be poetry.
Wow,
And I'll tell you why, because poetry is really what got me to stop self-injuring. It was my first style. And I've never published any poetry. And I think that I can actually merge the poetry with Web3. And you know my photographer,
yes,
Mark
yes.
Thomas? I've already chatted with him. He has certain photographs that we're going to merge the poetry with. And we think that in that process, there's an NFT collection that then creates unique benefits and access. So we're going to actually blend Web3, a very new technology, with a very ancient practice. And I think that's going to be the next project.
Beautiful.
And then I'll tell you one other thing. And then in 23, I might write my first children's book about how to overcome self-injury for kids, because I feel like it's a give back. You know, I've never written on self-injury other than my own Your Secret Name, saying how I struggled with it, but I've never written anything about how to overcome it. And over the years, I have had people say, well, my son struggles with it, my daughter struggles with it. What would you tell them? And I've always kind of said, just read Your Secret Name. Like, but I haven't, if I have to write it in a children's story, I think it'll have to be, Einstein said something about you you don't know something well unless you can explain it simply.
Yes.
And so
Beautiful.
I'm going to have to explain it pretty simply.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with my audience and talking about poetry and simplicity and conciseness. I just launched last Thursday my own anthology, Love Letters to Water, 34 authors from 14 countries. And those
Wow.
from Africa, they are all poets. And they are so succinct in their relationship with water. They go to the basic of what water represents to them. And I was quite blown away by that feeling and how they perceive water.
That is cool. I like that. That is sounds awesome.
Um, Kary, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
I would just encourage people, and first of all, I love your interview style. Even though I'm a former pastor, I don't talk a lot about spirituality on a lot of podcast interviews because, they want to know about marketing and blockchain and all this. So it was fun. It was fun to go there today. And I would encourage people that even if you don't believe in God, God believes in you. And God can handle us and our anger and our frustration and our doubt. I didn't think that growing up. I thought I had to come to God all cleaned up. And you don't.
Yes, it's an ongoing process. Each of us have to go through, and we'll reach a certain point during our lifetime. So,
Mm.
thank you very much for your time today. Good luck with the new book.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all that you do. I would just encourage people like give his podcast, Claudio, a 5-star review. It means a lot to him. It means a lot to all of us. We're all connected. And he's doing a lot of great stuff for writers and authors and creatives. So you're one of the people that, when you said, can I be on your podcast? I said, for you, absolutely.
Yes, you did that. Thank you very much.
Take care.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it. Get a free copy of my book when you visit my website. And until next time, love and gratitude.